Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
So shall we get going?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm very sorry about this. Some glitch got into my computer. Fortunately, I found, uh, I know a person who lives close to my house and knows how to fix these things. Uh, Somehow it got wet and that's why the problem was, but let's not waste our time talking about what went wrong with my computer. We'll have a quick 20-minute class so that you people will not have a problem um, uh, going back to the other class, right? So let's start. We were doing methods of political thought, and I had reached the analytic method. The analytic method is also called the analytical method sometimes. Uh, so if we basically look at the analytic methods, this again can be traced back. These are all, of course, in the context of ancient Greece, but these can be traced back to yeah, these can be traced back to different philosophers, but the seminal work on analytics has been done by Aristotle. Are you able to see me? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Are you able to see me?
No, sir. We are only able to
No,
see.
sir.
Yeah, somehow it briefly came and disappeared again. So
Yeah, sir. We are able to see it now.
yeah, but you're able to see me now, but I've lost my slideshow. That's the problem. Hmm. Where is this? Well, yeah, are you able to see the slide and me now?
Yes, sir.
So we're on?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, then let's go. I'm sorry. So as I was saying, analytics is something that we talk about in the context of the work done by Aristotle. I also told you that rhetoric is something that was, again, a seminal work of Aristotle's. Apart from that, the analytic is the second one. In fact, this is the slightly more important work than even the rhetoric, uh, the work which he called rhetoric. Now, the thing that you need to understand here is that we have analytic in a book which he wrote, which is called Analytics, Prior and Posterior. Okay, so this, when it comes into Latin, and that is the common usage these days, when it comes into Latin, it becomes a priori and a posteriori. Okay, a priori is A-P-R-I-O-R-I, A space P-R-I-O-R-I, and a posteriori is A space P-O-S-T-E uh, T-E-R-I-O-R-I. Okay, so that is a posteriori. So if you have these two methodologies, which even the Romans used quite regularly, you will find that you will basically find that things which are a priori are knowing things before they happen. A posteriori is analyzing things after they happen. Now, both a priori and a posteriori, both these are essentially, um, both of them are analytical methods as opposed to descriptive methods. So let me, if we keep talking abstractly like this, we will not be able to get a clear picture of what is what. So what you must remember is that when you analyze something that has already happened, okay, when you analyze something that has already happened, then that analysis is called a posteriori. Posterior is after, okay. So after the occurrence, when you analyze it, it becomes a posteriori. So let me explain that with uh, a, let me kind of explain that with an example. Um, the example is that if you basically uh, look at a plane crash, for example. This happened recently, right? One of the Air India Expresses uh, had crashed in Kerala. Now you will try to understand what went wrong. Why did the aircraft actually crash? Okay, that is the question you will ask yourself. And then there were a number of explanations that were coming. One was that the aircraft landed too fast and it landed in the middle of the runway. I mean, not middle as in the center, but in the length, this thing. It didn't touch at the threshold where it was supposed to touch down. It touched down much later, and therefore it lost a bit of the runway, which is a small runway. It's not a very big runway because it is on a plateau. These are called plateau runways. Okay, so it overshot the runway, overshot the plateau, and fell into the ravine below. So if you look at it like that, then you'll say, why did it overshoot? You'll say it was visibility was bad, it was raining. So probably the pilot didn't get this thing properly, didn't get a view of the runway properly. Then you will also say, because it was raining, even applying brakes could not stop the plane, because what happens is when the runway is wet, it skids. And since the aircraft skidded and the brakes did not work as such, you say it ended in a crash. So this is an analysis which is after an occurrence has actually happened. Okay, this is after an occurrence has actually happened. Now we should try to understand what a priori is. Okay, because if you look at a priori, then what you do see with a priori is the fact that you know, um, you will rationally understand something before it can happen. Okay, so that is a priori, understanding the probability or the possibility of something happening before before the occurrence of something. Now here again there are two things. One is a preventive rational, or that which is actually technically called preemptive a priori rationality, or it can also be what is called simply a priori rationality, wherein you do not have access. I mean, you're not basically trying to stop something from happening. So let me kind of give you this, explain this with examples. If you look at, you know, some kind of preemptive thing. Now, let's take the situation at the border. Okay. If you take the situation at the border, then a priori, you know that China cannot be trusted. Okay, they might say something, but will they do what they say they are going to do? That is a question. So they might not actually do what they say they will do. That is one part. So what do? You anticipate an attack, and in anticipation of that attack, you take an aggressive posture, which is what India did. It is supposed to have, I don't know how much of that is propaganda and how much of that is true, but what is definitely there is that there has been a buildup of troops from the Indian side, and they also know now that if we only concentrate on the Ladakh area, China might strike near Arunachal Pradesh, and therefore you will see that people are Now, I mean, India has now deployed soldiers even on that front. So right from the west to east, across the Chinese border, wherever there is a possibility of deploying forces, and they have deployed them. Okay, so this is one way of preemptive strike. The other thing that you must understand is that a priori you can also assume that if some kind of hostilities break out between India and China, then Pakistan will try to make the best use of it and will try to attack India on the Jammu Kashmir side. Okay, and the Siachen Karakoram side. Okay, the Karakoram area is actually where all the three countries have a shared border. But you will expect Pakistan to join the festivities uh, if a some kind of a conflagration breaks up or rather breaks out between India and Pakistan. So you will also deploy a certain number of troops. You will also calculate logistics. All these things will come under the head of a priori. So you will have these two kind of analytics, a priori and a posteriori. Okay, posteriori is more in the nature of a post-mortem. Okay, post-mortem is after uh, somebody dies, you try to find out what happened to that person, why did that person die, if they die of unnatural causes, that is. If they die of natural causes, there's no need for a post-mortem. But if somebody dies of unnatural causes or suspicious causes, then one will basically conduct a post-mortem. That is a posteriori. A priori is rationally comprehending what might happen or what will happen and acting accordingly. This is one definition of a priori. There is another definition of a priori, which is actually called intuition. Okay, what we have seen so far is a priori as uh, as rational anticipation, right? Rational anticipation of people is by people is what we call a priori. There is another one. I'm not going to talk about that now. You have a class now. I'll just give you what it is. It is also a priori. It is not necessarily not rational, but it is not necessarily rational either. It is called intuition. Okay, knowing things before they happen intuitively, which means some people call it extrasensory perception, which is, things that we understand. If somebody can say, predict, that there's going to be an earthquake tomorrow, that is called an intuition, but that's an extreme form of intuition. On a daily basis, we have an intuition that we will discuss tomorrow, or no, next class is on Friday at 10 o'clock, right? Well, we've been cut down to 3 classes per week, which is a bit of an unfortunate thing. So I'll stop here today. Next, when I meet you on Friday, uh, we will kind of look at what the intuitive a priori is. Okay. Thank you very much. If you have any free periods in between, or if you have some time somewhere, okay, I don't mind taking a few extra classes. I don't go only by this. So if you're interested, if you're not already bored to death with what I'm teaching, if you would like to speed in things up a bit and have a few extra classes on days when you don't have an afternoon class, we can have a class at 12:45 or something to 1:15. That's up to you. You can tell me about it. I leave that decision entirely to you. Thank you very much, and I'm very sorry, uh, but the computer just didn't work. Fortunately, I have somebody who helped us. So thank you all, and see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.